go.
Hello racing fans, and welcome to this special post-Breeders' Cup edition of Get Tied On. I'm Tom Amello, he's Michael Kipness, the Wizard, and we're going to take a tour through the weekend races from this Breeders' Cup. Michael, a lot of themes, some great racing, some great performances, some real ironies, some tough beats, and some good scores.
It was a great two-day event this year. I as much as some of the pain we had to suffer on some really tough beats, it was a terrific 2 day of racing.
Yeah, you know, you go out to Santa Anita, you can pretty much bank on the weather being fine. It's good. You can bank on the track being, both surfaces being somewhat quick. And you know, first question is, will they be biased? But pretty fair.
It was a pretty fair racetrack, both the turf course and the dirt surfaces. It's nice to do this in the Wizard's Lair, right?
Yes,
it's a little different.
We are taping this from Branford, Connecticut, the Wizard's Lair, yes. We are not on Union Ave in Saratoga. We'll be back there next summer for the Saratoga season. But we thought we'd take this final shot at talking about racing, you know, kind of put a wrap on the year. I will say this, Michael, and I say it every year. I really wish that after Breeders' Cup Saturday, there'd be no racing Sunday to Wednesday, so that this industry could say, okay, we've put a bow on it, we've crowned our individual champions, and we're going to take a very short hiatus like every other major league sport. But no, Junior Alvarado may be riding a maiden at Aqueduct today at 1 o'clock.
And a lot of these jockeys take their vacation right after the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah.
You know, they take a few days off, and
A well-deserved vacation.
right, but racing goes on, and us handicappers have to deal with the next day.
That's right, like the stock market, relentless. Okay, let's get into racing. We're going to start with the Friday card, five races Friday. We're not going to belabor a lot of points here. You watch the races. We'll try and hit some of the highlights. Big Evs, right? Big Evs, if there was any an edge, this horse raced against Elders 2 races back in the Northrop.
It was an unbelievable, crazy effort. The pace was ridiculous. Big Evs didn't get the lead right off the bat.
Right.
Stalked, put away the other pace setter, and held on gamely. And that's after being bumped at the start. He rushed up. It was just a ridiculously game effort. And, you know, what could you say? He was clearly the best.
Yeah, Crimson Advocate, you know, set the pressured pace before folding. And really, if there was any controversy, if you will, in the race, it was the scratch of Gimme the Beat Boys imposed by HISA officials, which, you know, the trainer didn't like. There were scratches that day that befuddled folks. And I don't know how that's going to play out.
Yeah, I mean, they did their job. They were all over the European horses, especially Aidan O'Brien's horses, and Rick Dutrow and White Abario. They were constantly on him all week. But, you know, they're doing what they said they're going to do, and there's going to be some casualties. even if you're a trainer and you don't agree with it, it is what it is now. This is what modern day racing is going to be, you know.
And the nice thing, it's the I word in there. It's about integrity, right?
Right.
So
right.
let's hope it moves forward. So we started today with the favorite. We'll go to the BC Juvenile Fillies, and the heavy favorite there, Tamara, however way you want to say it. Michael, it seemed the clockers were not high on her workouts into the race. And, you know, the question was whether or not she was suited for the distance, even given the pedigree. And I'm going to say one thing, Harvey Pack is smiling in wherever he is, because, you know, his theorem was never been a favorite being asked to do something they've never done before.
Yeah, the clockers were dead right on this one because the reports, sometimes they're wrong and
Right.
sometimes they're right. And they were dead right because turning for home, Tamara had nothing left in the tank. And just FYI, breaking from post 12 and a daughter of Justify had the sire Justify, and you can see this picture in the back of my, or where we're filming, that's Justify. And a Triple Crown winner and a couple of the offspring of Justify won back-to-back races actually. Just FYI, a daughter of Justify. The next race, Hard to Justify,
Right.
the winner of the juvenile filly turf, a daughter of Justify.
Well, let's Justify. The pedigree was impeccable, but here's the thing. Both of those horses broke from post 12, which gets to the whole question of post and context. You know, I've said this before on this show and other shows. Outside posts give pause, if you will, but the context of the race, tactical speed, and the quality of the jockey sitting on that outside horse is what should be paramount in your decision making. And post 12 here, post 12 in the next race, and yesterday post 14, right? And so on the one hand, there are folks who say outside posts, I don't want to use them, but they win.
I have to say, and I was guilty and have been guilty of making this mistake in past Breeders' Cup events, is that I've let outside posts deter me from making a horse a higher selection. Mm-hmm. In a normal day-to-day racing, outside posts are not good.
Right.
But in the context of the Breeders' Cup, where these are the very best horses, I feel that if you have tactical speed and you can get a position early, just like Just FYI did, right? Mm-hmm. And just what Hard to Justify did, it's not a deterrence. If you're a horse, a mid-pack runner, and you got an outside post, you're going to be hung out wide. Yeah. So if you're a stalker or you can get the lead, we see some Baffert horses, like National Treasure. Mm-hmm. Gun, get the front from an outside post. They're not compromised. Master of the Seas, breaking from post 13.
And we'll talk about that.
But that's where outside posts weren't a deterrence because of their running style.
And so I think it's something to write down, take note of for the future on big race days. Just another, if anything, just FYI, 2 times over a wet track, right? Obviously bred to handle dirt, but she wins
dry
a slop.
Track, bred to handle a dry track on the dirt.
Yeah, and that might have been pause for some folks because she was a square price. And Candied took some action, and certainly I don't think was favored by the race shape or the race setup, and really didn't have a great trip.
Sluggish, kind of one-paced horse that is going to make up ground, but doesn't have a lot of gears. Just FYI had some gears
right
in that, stalking in that position.
All right, let's move to the BC Juvenile Fillies Turf. We mentioned post 12, Hard to Justify. Irony here, on our one of our early Saratoga shows, we profiled Hard to Justify as a horse to watch, managed to cash when she came back at Belmont to win, and we're not sure this was her day. I mean, you made her a contender, but not sure that she was up to this. Got a great ride, and lights out at 9-1. Well, in what was a chaos race.
Well, she was my second pick.
Right.
Okay. And, when we featured her as a horse to watch on our show, I had it was a maiden race, and she had run sneaky well. And she ran a low buyer number, which I ignored completely because I don't trust the turf numbers. Okay. I had indicated on our show, watch out next time in a stake race off a maiden race, right? That's a Chad Brown. When he knows he has a good horse, he does that. I had indicated the Miss Grillo as a potential for her next race. 7-1. I called you. The rare call that I call you up and I said, Tommaso, we're back. By the way, I didn't forget to call you.
That's right.
It's time to bet. We cashed at 7-1. Now, the horse I ended up picking was She Feels Pretty.
And she ran great.
She ran fantastic. That was a case where the post position, they broke next to each other. But because she's a mid-pack chaser, she was going to have to work harder, and she was going to be wide throughout.
But the other thing, though, she probably ran the best race of the California horses. If thinking about that, because as we said,
She Feels Pretty.
Show, yeah.
Well, she's not a California horse.
Sorry.
She had run. She was the Sherry DeVoe horse.
That's right.
That crushed them in Woodbine. And she was, she wasn't.
My bad.
Yeah. So, but she ran just as well as Hard to Justify. But the problem was the post position forced the rider to have to race wide throughout.
Right. Yeah, Johnny V kept. He had no options. Porta Fortuna ran well. It took money 4-1. Carlos Way took money. And really wasn't up to it.
Right. Yeah. It was basically, two horses that ran solid all the way around the track and in a good race.
Yep. Well, they went near constant velocity. They went 22.91, 24, 23. They went fast.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah.
So we'll move on to the BC Juvenile. And here we've got the other horse. The other Pletcher.
Yeah.
Fierceness. And, came in off a clunker in a short field and up the wet. One for fun in the wet. And you might make the argument, sure, if you like just FYI coming off wet tracks to dirt, at this price, maybe you would have taken a shot, and some folks did. And, kind of the what-if horse, right?
Yeah.
Well, what if he decides to run on dirt today?
Well, her debut was tremendous. She was bet down odds on the next time out, broke a little slow, but ran awful. It was a guess.
Yeah.
She was dead on the board, and what could you say? She just loved the dry track, looked like a totally different horse, looked like the horse that she was touted to be before her debut. And was one of the most, of the 2 days, I would say, she was one of the most impressive winners on Breeders' Cup. I love what the owner, Mike Rapoli...
Oh, I was going there too.
They interview him after the race, and the interviewer says, well, you got the Derby favorite. And his response was, I'm not sure I'm going to run. And he goes, well, why not? Well, maybe a couple days before the race, I'm going to get scratched, so why bother? So, come on.
Come on. Mike Rapoli is a dead-on New Yorker. We don't forgive anybody, and we never let loose. He's relentless. We'll see how his National Thoroughbred Alliance project contributes to the improvement of the game. But you can always expect a good quote from Mike Rapoli. The final race on Friday, the Juvenile Turf, and if you want to talk about themes, it's all yours.
Yeah, well, this was one of our really tough beats on the 2-day card. I had picked My Boy Prince,
right,
and unquestionable, got a perfect trip, sat a stalking, in third. Dettori just did everything right. But My Boy Prince just ran too good to lose, on that very fast pace from the start, put away the speed, battled tooth and nail, just got run down. My Boy Prince was a solid, 5 or 6 to 1.
Yep.
I was right about that one. I had unquestionable second, but we should have gotten the money there.
Yeah.
And you know, the ridiculous part is when you handicap the race, when I did the race, I never expected Air Recruit,
Right.
the long shot on the rail, to gun. I thought I think he had 3 races stalked.
Yeah.
And he, you know, so I thought he was going to stalk, and I put my boy Prince on the lead by, by himself.
But they went 22-26.
22-1, 46-4,
Right.
110-1, 122,
Yeah.
133-3. Never stopped.
Right.
Okay, the pace was fast all the way, and you know my boy Prince was just ridiculously good and got beaten to
Absolutely. Well, it happens. It happens. Well, we're going to take a break before we move on to Saturday. This is Get Tied On. I'm Tom Amello. He's Michael Kipness. And we're brought to you by WizardRacingSports.com.
Visit WizardRacingSports.com and purchase now. Since 1986, the Wizard has been your source for the best handicapping products for the always challenging Saratoga meet. Wizard selections include analysis and wagering strategies for every race. Wagers are updated after late scratches. The Wizard wagers every day, backing up his opinions with his own money. Visit WizardRacingSports.com and purchase now.
Thank you for staying with us, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Amello, Michael Kipness, Get Tied On, brought to you by WizardRacingSports.com. We're into Saturday's races from the Breeders' Cup, Race 3, the Dirt Mile, affected by the scratch of Algiers. The feel-good story of the year, Cody's Wish. He did his Cody's Wish thing. Bob Baffert did his thing. National Treasure on the engine. Zozos didn't do anything. And the race ends up with an inquiry where the entire world would have hated everybody on the planet had Cody's Wish been disqualified. And I don't know where Bob Baffert would have hid if they moved National Treasure up.
That was one of those inquiries where, it was 1 to a billion that they were going to, take that horse down. Because it was mutual bumping.
Yeah, and Caden Brader, I think, had the audacity to say, well, the stewards, they can't take into effect any of this karma about Cody's Wish. They must do what is right. When she said they must do what is right, I want to go, what? She ever see stewards make calls?
Yeah, I mean, Cody Dorman would have gotten off the wheelchair. He would have gotten off the wheelchair and, caused havoc himself, I mean, come on, there was just no way.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it was like 5 minutes, that they had to make a decision.
The on-air talent didn't know what to do, really. They didn't know what to do. They go, what are you going to say? I don't know. What am I going to say?
Everything was down. Handle, money, attendance. Well, $350 for a 2-day grandstand without a seat. But everything was down. Take Cody's Wish down. And,
It probably would have been like a breakdown, right? Chase people from the track.
Yeah. So, but Cody's Wish got the job done under a tremendous ride by Junior Alvarado, okay, because he saved every inch of ground, tipped him out at the perfect time. Now, if I knew that on paper, you think Zozos is getting the lead, but a National Treasure guns, which is Baffert's style, but I didn't think he was going, the Zozos and the rider was going to, I thought they were quick enough, but he was a dead piece out of the gate.
Absolutely.
National Treasure gets the lead, relaxes, Cody's Wish nails him, and it was all about the perfectly timed, ground-saving, off-the-pace ride by Alvarado.
Yep. Man can ride. We had a good time talking to him this summer, too.
Yeah, no, he's, you put him on a good horse, he's going to be good.
All right, the fourth race on the card, the Filling and Mare Turf, an all-Euro affair with a bit of an indicator when at 38-1, the Japanese got a horse who didn't look like he was going to run a lick and ran well to get fourth.
Yeah, that's right, and one of our bets of the 2 day, and I replayed it Even this morning, a couple times.
You like to suffer?
Well, I wanted to suffer with my wife. I wanted her to see it and actually like commiserate with me and like just say, poor Michael.
You needed to be held.
Right. I mean, that. So Maj was our pick.
Yeah.
Okay. And the fraction, Maj stalks early, takes the lead at the top of the stretch, and only the most ridiculous closing move that I've seen two others in my lifetime, 50 years of watching racing, that would match up with the ridiculous close by Master of the Seas was Forgo in the slop in the Marlboro Cup, toting 136 pounds, and Zenyatta in the Breeders' Cup. Like, or you know, it's absurd. Do you know that Master of the Seas had to run a 10-2 or 10-3 final eighth of a mile, coming from dead last to nip Maj, who was on that pace throughout. And you know what was so bizarre about, so weird about this is that past the finish, you know, with Master of the Seas,
Maj kept going.
Maj kept going and was in front of this horse. It was a ridiculous win and a ridiculous ride. Who was the jock on that horse?
Was it Buick?
Buick, okay. These riders in Europe, like Ryan Moore, is as good as Lester Piggott was. And Lester Piggott was the best. William Buick is not far behind. These riders are ridiculous.
I think I think they really know what they're sitting on. I mean, they know they can. They finish. They finish.
Well, they know they have a clock in their head. But what's even more amazing is they do it on American courses. Like, they're going to Santa Anita, that's rock hard, right? And tight turns.
Yeah.
Santa Anita is not European courses.
No.
Okay, Woodbine is, Belmont is, right? Not Santa Anita.
No.
They're going, like, the 6.5 is run on a downhill course and they hit the dirt. Like, they ride, like, it's absurd how good they are.
Let's just give a mention to the fourth place finisher. That was Win Maryland, 38-1. That's the Japanese horse. You know, a lot of talk. Japanese haven't yet really, but they are on the cusp, aren't they?
Well, they're going to win a Derby, okay? And they probably could have won a Derby with Derma Sotogake with whatever happened to him in the Derby. But I would be really curious, right? And I think this would be interesting. And I thought about it today when I'm watching the replays. Why not 1 year run the Breeders' Cup in Japan?
Why not?
Okay, now the Japanese have to come here, right? Everybody has to come to, it's the Breeders' Cup, the World Championship.
It's a home game.
Why don't they hold the Breeders' Cup 1 year in Japan?
Somewhere else. Yeah.
Or I'd like to see it in Japan.
Yeah.
Because I think Japan would win every single race. Because, you know, like they have to come here, get their clocks all adjusted, have to travel 1 million miles to get here, and they still run the way they do, right? The Europeans have to do it. Now, Europe doesn't have a dirt course.
That's right. You can't go there.
You can't go there. Japan has a dirt course. And like, okay, so let's say we have to get up to watch the Breeders' Cup at 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, they do. I mean, I don't know what the time difference is, but they certainly get up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, so I thought about that. Like, how interesting would that be?
Yeah.
And they dominate. They're starting to certainly make their presence felt here. Imagine if we go to their home turf.
Yeah, very interesting. And I know at least two degenerates would be up at 2 o'clock.
Well, certainly I would.
All right, race 5, the filly mare turf sprint.
Race 7,
I'm sorry. No, race 5.
Oh, right. Race 5.
Yeah, the filly mare
We actually,
sprint, seven
where we
furlong.
skipped, we actually skipped to race 6. We didn't do race 4. Innsbruck race. Isn't that, we didn't do that one. Right? We
I don't know. I said 4. Maybe I had it wrong.
No, so we
Turf.
talked about 6, right? And so now we got to go back to 4,
So let's go back to 4.
right? I guess we were just thinking about Maj, the Maj replay
Yeah.
and that tough beat.
Boy.
So let's talk about race 4, which
Okay.
is the filly,
What hap-
the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare turf.
Yeah. Okay. Talk about it.
Well,
I'm lost.
okay. Well, it was because that was on my mind.
Yeah,
That
okay.
tough beats don't escape you.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
Innsbruck.
That's right.
Best bet of the day
best
for
bet
me.
of the day.
Okay. Best bet of the day for me. What an effort.
Yeah.
John Gosden, what a trainer. Now, Gosden, this is a miler.
Yeah.
Gosden chose to go 1.25 miles for the first time with this horse. It reminded me of what, forget his name, but the horse was Banks Hill,
Right.
that great French trainer. Banks
Fabre.
Hill, who?
Andre Fabre.
Andre Fabre. Did with Banks Hill. Never been beyond 1 mile. Stretch him out, stretched Banks Hill out in the Breeders' Cup, won 1 mile, this 1.25 mile race. Innsbruck was so good in this race. Never gone the distance. Didn't even have the pedigree, really, of a 1.25 mile horse. And it not only increased the value, if they run this horse next year, they'll never cut this horse back to a mile again. She was great in this race. In Italian, you know,
Did her thing.
distance limitations, 1 mile is her gig. They tried to steal the race again. No dice here. But Innsbruck was tons the best.
And 1, 2, 3 euros. Euros 1, 2, 3.
yeah.
That's
yeah,
all.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you know.
And yeah. So, okay. So now let's try race 5.
Okay, yeah, race 5.
The sprint. Go.
Good night, Olive.
Good night.
Perfect setup.
Yeah.
Perfect setup. Weak field. Look, they ran the final time in 1:23. She finished in 13-2.
Yep.
If there was a really good filly, this was not a good. When Uguri, who I have to say is vastly improved, great training job by Brissett to get that horse to run second. This was a bad field.
Yeah.
Okay, at this level. Good night, Olive. Clearly best. Back to back.
Yeah. Done.
Breeders' Cup victories.
Okay. Well, we did the 6th race. Let's head to the 7th, which is the distaff. And Michael, you know, an interesting race. The 2-speed. You like the idiomatic, and you know, they bottomed out the field. And the other thing, Clairiere finally got pace, but 9 furlongs is not her thing.
Right.
And she did got in a little tight late, but she wouldn't get into the
No, she has distance limitations. She got a perfect setup, tremendous setup. They finished the last 8th in 14.
Yeah.
Okay.
They bottomed the field out
Again, not a stellar field for the distaff if you compare it to past years. You know, with better horses. You know, these Idiomatic was good, stalked, didn't get the lead because the horse that went to the randomized was the faster. Okay, and once randomized got the lead and was able to relax, I was kind of worried. And randomized ran as well as she could run. You know, horses like Search Results, counterfeit, just doesn't want to go 1 mile and 8, not at this level. The second place finisher, La Davida, just clunked along, clear trip in the stretch. When they finish 14, and you're going to make the last move, you may get second. Yeah. You know, Idiomatic has been really good, great training job by Brad Cox. The best horse.
Yeah. And Randomized should come back next year.
Right? Absolutely.
It's going to be a nice
horse.
Nice horse. Okay, the BC Turf race.
We'll take a little break and come back for the last part.
Let's take a little break and come back for the last part. This is Get Tied.
Visit wizardracingsports.com and purchase now. Since 1986, the Wizard has been your source for the best handicapping products for the always challenging Saratoga meet. Wizard selections include analysis and wagering strategies for every race. Wagers are updated after late scratches. The Wizard wagers every day, backing up his opinions with his own money. Visit wizardracingsports.com and purchase now.
Well, we're back. We're going to finish up this Breeders' Cup card with the 8th race, the Breeders' Cup Turf, and Perfect Ride, Perfect Trip, Augusta Rodin, and a really interesting race.
Yeah, I mean, Augusta Rodin, another ridiculously great ride by Ryan Moore for Aidan O'Brien. This was another of my best bets on the card, but I must say that the horse that I used underneath that would have made the number is the one horse from Japan.
Yeah.
Okay, that was Shahryar. Now, you had sent me a whole article a few days before the race, throat surgery. Now, throat surgery is not marked in the racing floor. They'll tell you gelding, they'll tell you blinkers, they'll tell you everything else you want to know, but they're not going to say throat surgery. Now, this horse was a top horse in Japan, okay? There was two clunkers, no reason on paper to understand why the clunkers. When we read in the article, the horse had a displaced palate and couldn't breathe. Well, he got a lot of air. And if the trips were reversed and Shahryar got the trip and the ride that Augusta Rodin did, he may have even won because he steadied at a crucial point. He was wide. He got tipped out. He had to regain his momentum. And there's Ryan Moore just waiting to make his move. The hole that could have been where Shahryar would have been was vacated. And Ryan Moore was the great world-class rider he is, seized the opportunity, and came through and seized the day.
Yeah, push-button horse. I mean, he had some quick left in him and space, and he went. And so, yeah, it's another one. But it's another point that the Japanese are not fooling around.
No.
I mean, you ask the old question, off of those two races, no works, right? You couldn't say, why is this horse here? And you could argue that 21, 24 to 1 really wasn't enough, given what's on paper.
It's really funny, too, if you watch them, like, not only do they look like beasts, but some of them wear, like, blinkers that are like yellow, like they look like they're gladiators, like they look like horses in Ben-Hur, or like in the
Wishpa had those on.
Right. I mean, even the blinkers look like telescopes. They're like moon men or something. It's so funny how they are prepared for these races. And I have to also make mention that Up to the Mark.
Yes, good horse.
You're talking about an American horse that ran a winning race stretching out to 1.5 miles for Pletcher. He ran big.
That's right.
He was wide. He never stopped trying. And he just ran into two monster horses. But he ran a great race.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the Classic, which really is a classic story. I think, Michael, you've known him for many, many years. You have conversations with him. If things come full circle, Dick Dutrow has come full circle. He was loved, reviled, sanctioned, did his time, and he's come back and done what he does best: work with horses. What he's done with White Barrio. We liked him when he came into the Whitney. I mean, he had worked so many furlongs. He just looked dead fit, and he won for fun. and has not had a race since. Dutrow works him up to this, and it's just I think a terrific story of redemption, if you will. And we in America, we like you on the way up. We love you when you're good. We're not happy if when you show your faults, but we like a redemption story. So I think this is good.
Well, as you know, I've been a defender of Rick Dutrow, from the day he was given that sentence, which to me, whatever the organization did, I mean, it's the industry, okay? It was horrible. It was unjust. He comes from, his father was a great horseman in Maryland. He learned the trade from his dad. His brother, Anthony Dutrow, a gentleman, a great horseman. Chip, a great horseman that had issues, the family of horsemen. Now, Rick Dutrow is Rick Dutrow. And when he had Big Brown, and I am friends with him, okay? I go back many years with him. His biggest detriment is his mouth.
Filters, no filters.
Right. But that's who he is, okay? He's good. He said some things he shouldn't have said, right?
Yeah.
He's never been convicted of drugs, or anything. Maybe he has some positives that are, but 10 years, right? There are many, many trainers out there that certainly some that have been proven to be much more guilty than him, that have gotten either a slap on the wrist or a small penalty, 6 months, a year. Some of these guys who have a litany of defenses and drug positives are back training after a couple years.
Right.
10 years was awful. Now, Dutrow won a Breeders' Cup Classic in 2005 with St. Liam. This is an unbelievable trainer, and the job he did with White Abarrio is extraordinary. Now, White Abarrio was the right pick. If you're not going to pick I put the Japanese horse second, but not the right Japanese horse.
We'll talk about that.
But White Abarrio, from the quarter pole, you knew when he made his move to the lead, it was game, set, over, basically, okay? Because he was not going to stop. No. Great ride by Irad Ortiz. Dutrow had him at the top of his game. He took the victory in the Whitney at 1 1/8, and he moved him forward to go 1 1/4 miles. Great training job, worthy winner. To me, horse of the year.
Now let's move to the second place finisher, Derma Sotogake. And this was the horse that we had picked for the Derby. And, the Derby is the Derby. And he didn't get, he didn't deliver for whatever the context and circumstances were. And so here he is, right? Off a bit of a layoff, no works.
No works listed.
No works.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
no works
now
listed.
tell me he wasn't working.
No, I'm not saying that. But it's so why would they send this horse? Well, they showed us why. This horse tracked that pace and rebroke late and was gaining on Barrio. He wasn't going to get him under any circumstances, but he was running on.
You could. I say that this was, in defeat, one of the greatest training jobs in the history of racing, ever. Because it's a 3-year-old, comes off a non-effort in the Derby, and it just goes back to what we're talking about. The Japanese horsemen and breeders. They breed good horses, and boy, can they train.
They breed good horses because they bought all of them.
Right. And what could you, it's just extraordinary. I have to make mention that Proxy ran really well. That was my sneak horse in the race. He just lost contact. He broke, he was in great position. I don't know what Rosario did, allowing him to drop, in another zip code entering the stretch, and he rebroke, and he finished really well. If he gets second, it's big money.
Yeah.
Horses like Sodi Crown wasn't going to get the lead. Wet track horse, doesn't want 1.25 miles. Arabian Night ran as well as he could. I say if he went in the mile instead of National Treasure, and you put Arabian Night on the lead, that Arabian Night would. I think that, I don't know if Baffert is thinking what I'm thinking, but I think the mile would have been probably a better choice for him. The Zandon proved to be a counterfeit. Zandon. And that's about it. That was the race.
Yep. All right, the BC Turf Sprint, race 10. And really the story there is it turns out to be a chaos race. And Big Invasion, to me, is the story. Because he could have won that race.
He could have won the race. Aesop's Fables was not far from running them down.
Yeah.
But Big Invasion was clearly best. When you're a closer and you are running 5 furlongs on the turf, you better not have any trouble whatsoever.
No, none.
A closer, this is a horse that at 5.5 or 6 would have been on the board for me.
Yeah.
I thought 5 was too short. It proved to be not too short with a clean trip. He wins.
Yeah.
He got stopped several times in the race. Nobles sat a perfect trip along the rail and was all out at the end, but the perfect trip and the ground-saving trip got the job done.
The two bombs, the Japanese horse, then went 43 and 4, setting the table. So, the 5 furlong specialty distance, right? The difference between 5.5 is just huge. We've talked about it before. The form kind of fuzzies it up.
They don't give you a record. And they lump 5 to 5.5. You have to siphon that out yourself, which there is a big difference.
Yes.
All
right, let's move on. And I don't get this. I mean, I get this because of television, football. But the sprint used to be, one of the premier races, right? And we relegated to the last. I saw on Twitter that after the Classic, the place was emptying out, like at Saratoga, and that the sprint was going to be run before a crowd as if it was a maiden special race.
They should have changed the time or whatever they do and put the Classic as the last. I don't know. The sprint was an afterthought, right. And it's still the sprint.
It's still the sprint. Well, it was supposed to be all Cali Speed here, and Cali Speed just melted.
Cali Speed and Cali Horses. Yeah. Okay, 0 for 14. Okay, now I have a theory about that. Okay?
Listen up.
My theory is California is a unique racing situation. It's a closed country, like it's a closed state. You don't get shippers. If you get a shipper, it's Golden Gate, right? You don't get too many shippers. It's California horses.
And the chippers are mostly for the turf, right?
Right.
East Coast shipper.
Right. So there's a problem with small fields all over the country. But in California, the small fields are different than small fields at Saratoga.
Right.
So the quality of competition that these horses are facing are not as tough as the Saratoga races, especially on turf and dirt, because you're getting in Saratoga the cream of the crop. You're getting Kentucky shippers. You're getting shippers from a lot of different places. They're training. A lot of winners yesterday trained at Saratoga, and they trained either at the Saratoga main track or the Saratoga training track, which gets horses ready. It's deep and more tiring. Yeah. I just feel like a guy like Baffert that has, these horses that get bet, like Speedboat Beach got bet. Muth got bet. Right. Or, you know, these horses, I would say if I could tell him, which I will, have a stable in Saratoga, like make a presence felt. Because if you're preparing for the Breeders' Cup, you want to get tested. You know, look,
They're beating up on each other, right?
Right. Be beating up on each other. Mott won 3 races. He won the dirt mile. Yep. He won the distaff, right? Did he win? No, he won the dirt. He won 3 races: yeah. The sprint, the dirt mile, and another race. Okay.
He won Elite Power.
Elite Power. Okay, right. The sprint. This one. So many of these horses, if you dissect Friday and Saturday's races, they made some sort of impact at Saratoga.
Right. In competitive races.
In competitive races.
Or they were reasonably competitive field and they dusted them.
Right, yeah. Right. And I think that California, you know, when you're 0 for 14...
It's a message.
It's telling you...
It sends a message.
And it's because the Breeders' Cup has changed all the prep races leading up to the Breeders' Cup.
Well, that's a conversation, too, that I've seen in a couple of articles that folks are saying, okay, it's been a long, long time, 40 years, right? The Breeders' Cup had a mission, and it seems to have accomplished that to a certain degree, but it also has caused an attrition in terms of what used to be fall championship seasons.
Yeah, it's the fall championship races are just not like they used to be because the Breeders' Cup has changed that.
And with more trainers saying, well, we're not going to run, we're going to train up to the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, and look at White Abarrio. He came into the Classic 3-month layoff.
Yeah.
So, and you know, the thing is also, they were, and I know for a fact, because I didn't talk to Dutrow myself, but my friend, who's a very close friend of his, talked to him, and he called me and told me every day Heisa was there, the vets were there, wanting to find any reason to scratch White Abarrio. Dutrow was under intense pressure and scrutiny.
And he actually missed a couple of works.
And he missed a couple works, and, you know, he came into that. That's pretty remarkable and it was a good thing to bring White Abarrio to the Classic fresh, but it's a good thing only if you're a great horseman, and you could do that. So I just have one thing to ask you.
Uh-oh.
You spent Saturday, you came down from Saratoga, where you reside, and you spent an entire day with the Wizard in his lair.
Yes.
And actually, you spent an entire day in the Wizard's betting office.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just want you to explain to the viewers, because you hear everything I tell you. We spend time in the grandstand during Saratoga, but you actually got like how many hours? 6 hours of watching
the Wizard work
and buying into my bankroll.
Yeah.
You took a 10% stake, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so, like, explain to the view. I don't want to explain it because I can't explain it.
You can't explain.
But tell the viewers what it's like.
I don't really like roller coasters, okay? I really don't. I really don't like heights because I'm really not a huge risk taker. You know, I've said on this show before, you know, I bet horses, I'm not a gambler. Well, you know, we've made it clear that I'm sitting next to a gambler. And, you know, for me, I have a bankroll, and I allot a certain amount of money to a day. I know what I'm comfortable not winning and losing in search of a win. But, you know, when you're a gambler, I mean, I think you have a totally different attitude about bankroll. You want to preserve your bankroll. You don't want to lose. But you also know how to fire the machine gun of wagers in your attempt to make a score. And we had the conversation yesterday about playing the races and then playing the races to score, because it's the scores that really get you from month to month, and you only need 1 or 2 a month when they're good scores. So yeah, what Michael's talking about, this is the second, third time we've done this. He can write tickets faster than I can imagine them, and he'll share them with me, and I look at them, and there's so many I can't figure out whether we're alive or what. And
I can't even. like you asked me, what are we alive to? And I don't even.
Yeah, because you're betting for the next race.
Or betting multiple pick fours.
Let me put it to you this way. They did the BCBC yesterday, and at some point in time, what they'll do, somebody will post the wagers everybody made.
Not the wagers, maybe down afterwards. Afterwards.
But they'll post that. And, because the question is, well, how the hell does somebody take $7,500 and leverage it up to $230,000? By taking some chances and making some big bets. And, it's sort of like, well, I'm interested in football, but I really don't know how to coach football, and I'd like to sit in and listen to how coaches coach. Not that I want to be a pro coach or whatever, but I'm interested. And in the same way that, when I'm doing this with you, I'm always interested in how you do it, because I want to learn from it. I'm never going to send it in the way you do, and that I don't have to. But it's fascinating to know. And I do know, I know them at T-Sports. I know folks who send it in, and it's a skill and it's an art form. And, we had some real opportunities to make some good scores yesterday that came up just, a neck or a lip short, which is the name of the game.
Yeah.
The name of the game. And it's almost like a pitcher in a World Series who's going great, throws a home run ball. He gets 10 seconds to reflect on the fact that the guy hit it out, and he's got to go forward like it never happened. You lose a race by a lip, you got 10 seconds or 5 minutes to lament, and then you're back in the game, right?
Yeah.
Attitude-wise?
There's a lot of you not having fear.
Absolutely.
Okay? You can't. You have to not have fear, and you have to understand that on a card like the Breeders' Cup, you're only going to have a few solid opinions, and you're going to have races that aren't your strongest opinions, that you just don't have that much of a feel for. You don't want to overbet those races. Every race dictates a different wagering strategy. So you have to decide, what type of play you're going to make for that particular race. Yeah. When you get to a situation, and we had a few, Maj was one.
Yep.
Okay. Maj was one. Shahryar was, now that wasn't a top pick, it was Augusta Rodin, but I'm leveraging a price in there. Proxy, not a top pick, but it's making the number at a huge price. Right. And I'm going for the score, okay, on certain situations. I really like White Barrio, did not like Dermis Sotogake. Right. But if Proxy gets second, we make a huge score. Now, you have to know how to construct the pick four tickets. You have to have the guts. You saw, I would lose a race, but now here comes my opinion, and I'm going to just keep betting tickets.
I want to stop that, because this is not a conversation in celebration of how he does what he does. This is more a conversation about education. Because you're all out there, we're all wagering. We all wager different ways. We all want to win. Okay. Now, I asked him yesterday, I said, we should do, and I don't know if you want to do it, we should do tape a wagering session where we're going to, on one of these big days, maybe the Derby, something like that, we'll tape you making your wagers. You can talk into the camera, and they can laugh, live, win or lose with us that day. You know, in retrospect, not live, because we can't do that.
You know, yesterday, a perfect example, you can have a losing day and learn something from it, okay? You don't always learn from winning days,
Right.
okay? But we were down a substantial amount of money yesterday, and we had a chance to really take it on the chin. But if you lose the attack mode and you lose your confidence, you're never going to have a chance to get
Whatever you're betting, whatever amount you're betting, that's the learning.
right, right. And we made quite a comeback, you know, because we showed a profit on yesterday's card, and we didn't hit our key races.
Right.
And if we were taping actually how I had plotted these tickets out, that we won despite not winning, where we needed to win.
It's called irony.
Yeah, you know, but look, these days take a lot out of me and a lot out of, you know, everybody who's playing it hard. Playing a contest is different than playing,
Right.
You know, individual races betting. In a contest, you know, and I applaud those contest players for especially the ones that can turn a $7,500 bankroll into 200 and something thousand, because you're betting, you know, sizable amount of money on situations. You're not really spreading.
Right.
You're just going for whatever home run, right? Playing the way we do, or most people play, you gotta be right on the ones that your opinions are strongest.
That's right.
So if you are playing too much money and losing too much money and you haven't even gotten to your key plays, you're up against it, because, you know, you have to know. That's why the most important thing, I feel, is being prepared. Handicapping a card in advance, so you know where your strengths on the card lie. Because if you're just picking up a form,
Right.
and you're doing race by race by race, I think you're at a disadvantage, especially in the long term.
Okay. Well, we hope you enjoyed this recap. We hope you enjoyed the conversation about wagering. If you have any questions or comments, you can send them to.
You could send them to my personal email, because I
Okay.
don't even know what my website is. It's mkipness0810@gmail.com. And, you know, we're into sports now, and we're having a good season. And go and look at our results and our sheets that we do.
And you bet those.
I actually had bets going while the Breeders' Cup was. To be honest, yesterday, the bets that I made were right after the final race of the Breeders' Cup, so it was never ending.
There you go.
It was like, it came down to an 11:30 backdoor cover with Purdue plus 32.5, and they score a touchdown in the last 2 seconds, throwing a touchdown, a back shoulder touchdown to cover. So the day started early and ended late.
He just talked a jargon I know nothing about.
But this is, you know, we've done, I think this is probably our 15th show.
Yeah.
And I'd like to try to do a show once a month. I mean, I don't want to do it every week because it loses its specialness. But once a month, maybe I'll take my tripod on the A train and go to Aqueduct or Belmont, or figure out a way to do something by phone, or do something. There's technology allows you to do these things.
It's fun.
And when things slow down, we're going to try to do a show once a month, certainly for the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
And then if all is well, we will go back to Saratoga. And I already have a reserve spot for the guy at Saratoga. I always wanted to know who the guy was. I found him, who takes all the horse shit in the pig. What they do with it?
Got that guy. That's right.
I got him. Yeah. I got him. He's gonna. I want to know, like,
he's the poop guy.
Right, where he goes with it, how they get paid, what happens to it. You know, so we always have a guest, a different type of guest.
That's for sure.
On the show, where people who don't even know horse racing get a slice of what the different jobs are in the game. Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you for sticking with us here. I'm Tom Amello. He's Michael Kipness. This is Get Tied On, brought to you by WizardRacingSports.com.
Visit WizardRacingSports.com and purchase now. Since 1986, the Wizard has been your source for the best handicapping products for the always challenging Saratoga meet. Wizard selections include analysis and wagering strategies for every race. Wagers are updated after late scratches. The Wizard wagers every day, backing up his opinions with his own money. Visit WizardRacingSports.com and purchase now.